Peter Thiel. I am the president of Clarium Capital Management. I was the founder, as the co-founder and CEO at PayPal. It was basically a very middle-class family. My dad moved to the U.S. to get a master's degree in engineering. We lived in Cleveland, Ohio for a number of years. And then I ended up going, we lived in Africa for a few years, and then moved out to California when I was about in 5th grade. So I ended up going to about 7 different elementary schools, which was perhaps the most distinctive aspect of my childhood. But you know, we were very focused. My parents were very focused on the value of getting a good education, and so it was really a super academically focused childhood, growing up all the way through. Probably my favorite author at the time was J.R.R. Tolkien. I was really into science fiction, and Tolkien certainly influenced me in a lot of ways. I think that I was a big chess player, and so you know, was very much into that in junior high school and high school. It's always hard to sort of reconstruct these kinds of things. Certainly, it was probably generally libertarian, free market oriented already in high school, and thought that sort of approach worked better. It was in some ways the sort of the height of, you know, it seemed at the time like it was the height of the Cold War. You know, in retrospect, it was the end of the Cold War, and I felt that you know, communism seemed like a very dangerous, very bad thing, because you know, once you lost freedom, you could never regain it, and there was sort of this aspect to it that seemed very apocalyptic to me, where it could only go in one. If it went wrong, it would just go catastrophically wrong in sort of an unalterably bad way. And so that I always felt there was a very keen sense to be aware of how big the stakes in some of these things were. And then, of course, you know, as I went to Stanford, I started sort of the alternative independent student newspaper there, conservative libertarian newspaper, and that, of course, the process of doing a lot of writing and thinking about a lot of the contemporary issues in the mid to late 80s. Really sharpened the thinking a great deal. At the time, of course, it seemed that there was something that had gone very badly wrong in the university context, where you had these speech codes, you had sort of diversity of which meant that people looked different but thought alike, and it seemed to me that there was the whole sort of the whole political correctness phenomenon. I think really peaked in sort of the late 80s, early 90s. And you know, obviously it's an exaggeration to describe it like a Stalinist totalitarian thing, because nobody's being killed or anything like that. But you know, I think definitely it's perhaps you know, a very deadly thing nevertheless in an intellectual academic setting, and I think it's something that needed to be resisted a great deal. My sense is that things have gotten somewhat better. You know, in some ways, I think some of the problems are still very much there. You know, some of these things are actually very difficult to fix.